Happy New Year to everyone. Glad you're here this morning. Um, we've got lots of things going on with that. It looks like Kristen is here. And as she says, I hope you guys all had just a great holiday and things went well for all of you. We're coming down to the last part of our blocks and our quilts in this, and what a fun journey it's been. And the block today is another fun one. I want to jump right in. And as always, please ask your questions in the chat box and pop in and say hello and good morning. It's always good to see your little comments and the little pictures that come with it, so I can see your faces. That's always wonderful. Right now, I'm going to drop you down to the table, and we'll get started right away on the block. We're looking at the piece Sunflower today, and on your pattern, on the front of your book or your pattern, it's this one right here. And I am making it as it looks in the book simply because I think that it's easier as I'm working on it if you can see what you can see in the book. But this is quite lovely too, where the light part or the white parts on this one, they've added another light color in there, and it gives it more of that rounded look. That's really cool too. But I'm going to be more or less following this one using our background fabrics, and it's called the piece Sunflowers. Kind of get you thinking about summer and all of that. Okay, I see people popping in. This is great. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's good to be back. Good to be back and doing stuff. So I want to talk a little bit about a couple of things here. One, here is the block. My block is going to be using the background fabric in the white areas, but you could certainly put another fabric here, using your lighter ones here, or vice versa, whichever way you want to go, and play around with it. There's wonderful combinations if you bought the kit. There were some great combinations of fabrics. Then I want to have you take a look at the pressing of this. In terms of the pressing, it's every other one goes towards the center or goes towards the outside, and it does lay better when you pay attention to that. And when we get to this large circle, pressing it out will help that lay flat and give you that applique look on the inside. So the steps that we're going to take today, I want to pull this up and out. Here, the A template has you sewing the 4 blocks together, so you'll end up with a square with a big hole in it. And that's the first part, and so I'm going to put that aside for the moment. And then on the second part, you're going to take 3 of your B pieces, and you're going to sew them here, here, and here. So 1, 2, 3. Every other one on your block, and hopefully you can see. So 1, 2, and 3 down here. Then you'll make these units, which fit into the top, which I have right here. That is that unit, and you'll have 2 more, which one will fit here and one will fit here. But I wanted to take some time to show you how putting these on makes a difference, that you're paying attention to your markings on your fabric, that if you're marking them for the hand sewing or even machine sewing, because as they fit in there, there's those little pieces hung over, and then we'll get to sewing it into the circle. So let me get my book out of the way, because that makes it, well, for me it makes it more confusing. So let's take a look at putting those first 3 on. what I did here is take my pin and I put it right into that corner, slightly into the inside, because again, that pencil mark takes up a little bit of real estate. And what you will notice is that you're going to have a little bit of a triangle. It's not an equilateral one because of the shape. Excuse me, because of the shape of the diamond piece on there. So if you line each of those sides up and then pin it, you would be able to know that when it's opened, you've got that 1/4 inch seam when you stop with the sewing of it. And there I did a little bit of hand sewing on this one, and I also did a little bit of machine. So I'm going to take this to the machine, and I will sew between the 2 points, and then we'll move on with that. So I've, as always, have my leader piece there, and it's got some, it's very dry in the house here. As far as the air and humidity goes, and I don't want to sew that in. So it's got a little electricity to it. And with my machine here, the last stitch, if I use my scissors on my machine, it stops. If I keep it 1 stitch from the end, I can it stops perfectly right there. And it took a little bit for me to know that that's how my machine acts. Again, when you press it, set those seams, and you're going to see that this one goes down, this one I've pressed up, this one I'll press down, and so this one is going to be pressed up when I get to that point. I'm not going to press it right at this point because it's easier to fit these pieces in if I don't. So now I'm going to make the last or the third one of these. And again, it's going to be critical that you pay attention to your markings on your pieces of fabric on the back side, because you're going to want to get those points exactly where they should be with your pins. Now, I actually forgot to do this on this one, but I didn't mark the curve, go through that, but you're going to need that marking. So I am going to take my ruler and go down 1/4 of an inch and get that dot there so that I can run. So I've got that 1/4 inch, and all I want to do is, I don't need to worry about that curve because I only want that 1/4 inch so that I can put my pins in. So make sure that or go all the way around. Use your little 1/4 inch maker if you have one of those, or however you mark on the curve with your 1/4 inch tools. Okay, all right. So this has a slight curve at the top, and I want to get that, as you can see, the bottom part of this is down here, and this I didn't really need to mark because that is going to go under my machine, but if you're doing it by hand, you will definitely need to mark that. So I have my pieces, to make that piece. So let's get to marking that. So again, I'm going to take my pin and go through, and I really want to make sure that I get it right in that mark, and coming up again right there, and I can stick a pin close to the hand so that's not going to move. I can use this pin again. All right, and then between those two markings, I can sew my. So let's go to the machine, and again I will start on that mark. And I'm going to finish up again right in where I can one stitch away so that I don't have that extra there. All right. And here I will be able to press my pieces, but I'll wait till I get the other one on. And again, and I hold it, underneath straight so that it doesn't move on me between my two fingers, and that helps keep that pin straight so that I think because I don't have that little, I need to do that again. Once in a while, you don't quite. And make sure that I have that. All right. Sorry about that. But at this point, I really do need to make sure that that is straight on there, because if you don't, it's not going to fit into the next piece. So thank you for indulging me there. All right, then back to the machine, and we're going to sew that last one, starting again right in. And again, for my machine, it's one stitch away from the edge of that, and I can use my scissors and cut it. And that's just knowing your machine and what it does. All right, and there I have my next piece, and as you can see, I'm pressing each of those to the center, setting my seams, and I say this often, but just hitting that the side of that and letting your iron sit. So I'm just hitting the side and letting it sit there. All right, so now I have my two pieces going back to my main piece here, and again, this gets put in pretty much the same way that we've been doing all of these recently. So this one, again, I'm going to be working with pinning, and I want to get into this corner right here where the other threads have come up, and keeping this away so I can see where it's coming and I don't sew into it. I'm pulling I think this is the hardest part is the pinning of this and getting it directly right in there. All right, so now I have this pulled, to the, away from the seam line because I want to sew right up into that point, dropping another pin in. And if I have sewn well and I have cut well, this is going to lay exactly where it needs to. So I don't have to worry too much about that. So I'm going now to sew 1/4 inch in to the end of that piece, or actually I'm going to go all the way to the end because I can, and it's not going to affect how this is going to go into the circle. All right. And I have a little bit of a thread issue here. Let's see. This sometimes happens with my thread, and so I'm going to stop this. Every now and then I'm going to have to rethread my machine because what happened is, and I may need to change my needle. I don't know if you can see this or not, but my thread shredded, and that means that either I didn't get the right set of pins and I put it in quickly, whatever, but I know that the size of your needle with your thread, the size of the thread that you're using does make a difference. So if you have that, check your needle size and your thread size. And if you're not sure what size of needle goes with your machine, ask your the person that services your machine. Or the other thing that you can do is go to the Superior website, and they have everything that you need to know about needles and thread in there. So I need to double check that and make sure that my needle and my thread is correct, and that those are both down. And I'm going to come right up into that again, stopping one thread widths away from that corner. And there so as you can see, there I have that. Now I'm going to move into coming across, pulling both of those back, and sewing between these two marks. And I want to make sure again that I have my pin going in to this one and coming out on this one in the place that it needs to. All right, I don't know if, so I have gone in on this side, right in where those pins come out again on the other side. I want to push that all the way down because I really do, to get those points sharp, that really needs to be in there correctly. And I'm going to pull again these to the back side, and making sure that I have both sides aligned correctly. So again, going in that first one. Making sure that's pulled back. I got that one just slightly off. There we go. All right, keeping that pulled back. And this is why I don't press it until I get all of this in, because it makes it a little bit tougher to work that corner. The big thing here that I noticed when I sewed the first one in is keeping that I want to make sure that I have that. Okay, it's all good. Keeping these pulled back so that you're not sewing that into. And I'll stop at this point and see if there's any questions coming up. So I've got both of the fabrics pulled away from there, toward away from the seam line is what I'm trying to say. And then I can sew directly across that. And I would do the same thing if I was hand stitching this as well, marking it, well, and coming directly up into that corner, getting rid of these extra threads. And now I've got my point. So my point is there, looks great. I know this one will be the same. So again, I am pulling this back. I want to get this directly in that corner. And again, making sure all those seams are moved out of my stitching space, holding that pin level with my fingers. All right. All right. So I've got that sewn in. Now I want to come back and set my seams with the iron. And as you can see, if I press this, flat, this one comes up, this one needs to go down. And I want to do that really from the top and just set my iron on there so it works its magic. This one needs to go up. And so I'm going to press this side right here so you can see what that side looks like pressed, because I really don't want to press this side just yet. And those fit in, and so now my third and last one will fit right in there. All right, let me take a look and see if there's any questions. Oh, thank you for putting up the Superior Threads reference guides. All right. Okay, so now the last thing that I want to do this morning, because I don't see any questions up there, I would like to share with you now the putting of this into the circle. And I know I don't have that last one sewn in, but that's okay because I can share with you how this is going to play out in this circle. So let me get as much of this circle in the picture frame that I can. You're going to fold your piece, in half, because if you look at the picture, one of these is going to go right in the center. So you need to find the center of that piece. And so we're going to put right sides together. And when we get down to the side piece, you're going to see that that side piece is going to be in the center of one of your smaller points here. And so you're going to find your center there. So I have my center there, and I'll have my center here. And because they go in right sides together, you're going to turn that circle over. Drop a pin. As this moves around, you're going to come to this side. And you're going to drop a pin in there. And as this comes around, you can add whatever pins you feel that you need to fit into your piece. And it's basically take it slow, and it's like sewing on a curve. And so I'm going to show you without really sewing, because I'm not quite there yet. But as you sew each of these, you would pin it all the way around. But you would put it under your machine. And again, I use some type of stiletto to move that over. Put that under and just go slowly around as you would sew on a curve. Holding that in place. And again, use more pins if you need to. And it pretty much sews right in place there. And you go all the way around the circle. So again, if you need a picture reference for that, center of the top here, you're going to have it here. You'll have it again on the center here, and you will have your triangle here on this right side where you will put it against the seam, and then flip it in, and you'll sew that circle as we've been doing with our curved seams. So that's how this block goes together. You can either do it by machine or by hand, whichever seems to work best for you. It's really kind of a fun block, and it pretty much goes together pretty easily. Key to this is making sure that you get it pinned correctly before you start sewing, and getting those 1/4 inch seams in the let me just make sure that. All right, I don't see any other questions. If there are any, pop them up there. Let's see. Do you clip the curved seam after stitched? I have and I haven't, and it really depends on my block. whether I clip it or not. I am guessing on this one, I will probably need to clip it a little bit before I iron it, or I'm not going to get it to lay flat. So very good question. Thank you. I had forgotten about that with the curved seam, and I would have remembered if I had completely sewn it in and pressed it. But clipping those curves, as you know, as you go around, could be very helpful. Sometimes the circle is large enough that when you flip it back, because this is going to be pressed to the outside, it's going to lay pretty flat for you, I think. So snag that and get that in there. Is there any other questions that we have? I hope you enjoy this block, and I hope that with the holiday, with 2 weeks off, that you had a chance to get caught up a little bit. I certainly did, and worked ahead a little bit, so that was good to get that accomplished and make that a little bit easier as we come into the end of this. All right. Kristen has put up where you can put up to rewatch and see this again as we put it together. The other thing to always remember is that if you have pictures and things, please put them up in the forum. And I had one of my someone email me and share their pictures, but today I couldn't get them to come up on the screen. So hopefully by next week I can put those up and share those with you. If you want to share your pictures and can't on the forum for whatever reason, my email address is on the bottom left hand side of the screen. Please email me, and there's been some great questions. And Pat, thanks. You make it look so easy. Mostly it is, and so that'll be good. Next week we're going to be working on the block. Let me grab I had it. We're going to be working on Lily of the Valley, and I've already gotten a comment from one of you about how to make that sewing a little bit easier in there. So I'm excited to really get in there. And I noticed that many of you have prayers for Alex, and that is wonderful. It's the best way to help her. And tomorrow morning, Monday, she will dedicate some time of her show to sharing all of that with you. So if you want to hear it from Alex herself, besides the letter that you saw this morning, she will be talking about that tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock Pacific time. So thank you all again. Have a wonderful week, and we will see you next Saturday.